So for those of you who aren't familiar with the designer box from Diamonds and Dust, this one is from a few months ago, and you get 3 glitters in it. This one is Feathers, and it is like a mini chunky blue. I love this. The orange is Wild and Free. I've already used a lot of this on other designs. And the brown is called Broken Arrow. And so these all come in bags. I've just already bottled them and didn't put labels on them. So when you receive it, they will be in bags. And then she matches 2 pattern vinyls pieces with this. That way you don't have to try and color match anything. It's already kind of done for you. And you can make any kind of a design you want with everything that's in here. And then of course there's the cute little touches. And everything in this is now available on her site. Starting out here, I've got my template cut out. We've got transfer tape on it. Don't mind the cute little Hello Kitty pattern on it. I just had that left over. I bought it and was like, oh, I'm going to use it. And then I didn't. So now it's used for templates. So we cut it out. We've wrapped it. I'm going to tape the top of it. And you'll see where exactly I tape it. This process was a little bit hard for me to grasp when I first saw it done. But once you get the hang of it, it makes a lot of sense. So you're taping the first edge down so that it essentially just stays there. You don't want it to move. That way you can take the other edge and peel back the transfer tape on. And it's a little bit difficult to explain, so just watch it and I think you'll probably understand more what I'm trying to say. So you cut like an inch of that transfer tape out, and then you're gonna roll it again. And I know a lot of you are probably very familiar with how to apply a template onto a tumbler, but if you are like I was the first time I ever did this, this will hopefully help you. So you're gonna roll that and make sure everything meets up exactly where you want it to, and then you're gonna remove the tape from the other side. And then you're going to start working your way, pulling that transfer tape, or not the transfer tape, the backing off the rest of your vinyl. And I always start from the middle, and I use my thumbs, and I just press out all of any of the wrinkles or creases. I've seen some girls do this so quickly. I don't know how they do it. I'm always very slow and careful when I do mine, but if you can do it really quick, that's perfect. So now I'm just going to overlay the vinyl that I wanted in those larger spaces. And everything that I use on this tumbler came from the Diamonds and Dust designer box. This one was a few months ago, and I just decided to finally do something with it. And I love this vinyl. It's a little bit stretchy, and it was very easy for me to manipulate. And I tried to get it all down with a sheet of the transfer tape, but I found that it was a lot easier to put it on there without the transfer tape. So I ended up on this one kind of like peeling off the transfer tape on the edges. That way I could just lay it down with my fingers and manipulate it how I needed it to lay. Okay, yep, I took all that transfer tape off of it, and it is way easier to do it this way. And I was able to get it lined up exactly how I wanted it. You will notice in the top band here, I think this was before. I did go back and take that out, and I made it a little bit wider because I wasn't happy with where the cow skulls kind of met up. You couldn't see a whole lot of the print. So I did end up making that band larger. And you'll see that when we come back to glitter it, that it doesn't look the same as it does when I put it on here. And that's why. But when I did finally get in and add it how I wanted it, I thought it lined up pretty good. Okay, so as you can see here, I did go ahead and switch over that vinyl, and I'm going to color in my lines. I already started on this one, as you can see. Just, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be the right shade of brown for what I was wanting. And I'm going in, I have my paint markers from ARTEZA, and I love them. I was hoping that my fine tip ones would be here by the time I recorded this, but they weren't. So I went with my fat tipped ones this time. You can do this with paint if you want to with a paintbrush. I just thought this was going to be a little bit easier on me. So I colored all of these bands with markers. And I believe on the brown, I colored a band and then glittered it, and then colored a band and glittered it, and then realized I should have just colored all of my bands at once and then glittered them all at once, which is what I did for the other ones. Okay, so I have my one band colored. It should have just been all of them at this point. So I've got that done. I'm gonna go in and glitter it. And this part is why I said I like to use a marker, because I had to go in with my paintbrush and put in Mod Podge, which I really despise using, especially with chunky glitter. So there's that. And it was just kind of a pain with the paintbrush. I think I only did half of the band at once because it just dries so quickly. And I tried to put a pretty good amount on there. But I think I still ended up having to go over different parts of it twice because the Mod Podge just dries so quickly. If anybody has a better way of doing these bands that does not involve Mod Podge, please put it down in the comments so that I know for next time and my life gets a little bit easier. So once I got to the bottom of half of that line, I went back up to the top and put even more of this devil glue on there, just because it had already started drying. So once I have enough on there that I'm pretty confident some of this glitter is gonna stick, I'm gonna go ahead and just dump on my glitter. And I'll use my finger and try and pat it down, try and encourage it to stick. I did have to go back through and put more Mod Podge and glitter on several spots for all of these, just because it's using Mod Podge. So once I have all of my brown done, I'm going to go ahead and spray seal it like your life depends on it, especially because it's your darkest color. I always do my darkest first, that way it's done, and I don't have to put the darker glitter on top of anything else and risk any kind of glitter transfer there, because that's a huge pet peeve of mine. So spray seal it 5 times, pray, offer your firstborn child, whatever you have to do to make sure that that glitter is sealed and it's not moving. And only then, once you are confident that it's not going anywhere, you can start on your next color. I did blue for this, and again, I went in with my marker first, and I colored them all, Mod Podged the crap out of them, and glittered them, just like I did on the brown. So I did the same process with this last color. As you'll see in a minute though, I colored this whole thing pink, and then later decided that I wanted it to be more orange. And then I didn't like the orange marker color, so I ended up having to mix up some paint to get the color that I wanted. Other than that though, it was the exact same process. Glue, glitter, and seal. Once my glitter was complete, I went ahead and put 2 layers of epoxy on top of it to get it nice and smooth. I'd already put a few lines on the cup here just because I had cut them out differently at first and I didn't like the size, so I just wanted to make sure this was the size that I wanted. And for this, I love using the Cricut textured vinyl on my lines for everything. You can pull it up if you mess up without it looking weird, like I know a lot of the holographic vinyl, if you pull it up once you lay it down, you're done, you have to cut another piece, and that's not the case with this. So I always use Cricut textured vinyl unless I absolutely can't when I'm doing these lines. And as you'll see, I will lay down one side at a time and cut in the middle so that you have that nice point. I don't like it when my points are overlapping. I really love to have a clean, mitered edge on there. So I will lay it down and slice it so that I have that nice mitered edge, and then lay down the other side and do the exact same thing. And once I have all of my lines completed on there, I really like to spray seal it really good just to keep all of those tiny little points down, because I've had them come up so many times and it's been a nightmare. So I've just learned to kind of spray seal once I'm done so that they stay where they're supposed to. So once I have another layer of epoxy covering up my lines, I went in and took my Floetrol, which is acrylic pouring medium, to thin out the paint. And I went in and mixed with my white paint just to thin it so that it wasn't completely opaque. I did not want a big white spot to cover up my background, but I also knew that I needed something there to separate the two so that it would stand out. And I kind of was going for a frosted look or a lace look, and I was really happy with how it turned out. So I just went ahead and I played around with how much of each I was going to need to get it the consistency that I thought was going to work for this. And once I got that somewhere close to what I thought was going to look good, I just dabbed my sponge in it and I blotted it in my paper first and just kind of went to town on the front of my cup. And I tried to start more concentrated in the center and work my way out so it faded a little bit. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but you can kind of see how I started building on my color. I did end up going in with a little bit more paint and then a little bit more thinner around the edges to kind of give more of the faded look again. And I had to wipe some stuff off that I didn't quite care for. So it's how you want it to look. If you want that drastic edge, then don't fade it out. If you really want a gradual transition from your area to the rest of the cup, then definitely work on fading that out really well. And I did end up going in with some alcohol at the end and cleaning up where I didn't quite love it around the edges because some of it smeared where I didn't want it. So I went in and cleaned that up and I let that dry completely before I went in and did this next step. So once we're all dry there, I'm going to go in with my mica powder. This is just pearlescent powder from Alumilite. I'm going to have it linked down below. I did get my luster dust from Diamonds and Dust in the mail today, and I got like 6 different colors, and I'm really excited to go in with the different colors on this type of background and see how much more dimension I can even give it, having those different tones in there and not just the one pearlescent powder. So stay tuned for that one. So I spooned a little bit of my mica powder down on the table. I dipped my sponge in a little bit of the paint and covered my sponge with the mica powder and just tried to dab it on. That way it gave it just a little bit of the sparkle and the shimmer, so it didn't look completely flat. So I just kind of repeated the process with the mica powder all over until I was happy with the amount of sparkle it had. Okay, like I said, before I spray sealed this, I went ahead and just cleaned up the edges with my alcohol and made sure that there were no smudges or spots that I had missed. So once I spray sealed this and it's dried completely, I went ahead and placed my decal directly over top of this. And this is the decal that I designed, and I will have it available in my Etsy shop, which I will link down below. I really wanted a design that was going to be kind of tall and slender for this cup because I'm just very picky about decals. So once that's on there, I'm going to go ahead and give it another coat of epoxy on top of my decal before I go in and sand my rim. You could do this before you even put the decal on. I've done that a lot of times. On this one, I just decided to do it once I had the decal on. That way I could do the rim and any sanding that it needed at the same time. Once that layer of epoxy is dry, I'm just going to go in with my Dremel and my flapper wheel, which is obviously very worn down at this point. I'm going to sand the rim. I'm going to get a nice even edge on there. And if I have any spots on the cup itself that need to be sanded, I will do that at this point before I will give it its final coat of epoxy. And once that's done, we're finished. I loved this one so much. That white turned out so pretty, and the colors in this box went so perfectly with the vinyl. I could absolutely not have been happier with this one. So thanks for watching, guys. Come back. I have a lot more tutorials planned. I just got my new designer box in the mail, and I can't wait to show you.